We've got Marcel P. We've got Flash. So maybe now this is a time to talk about Golem, Rumham.
Well, actually, notable in Flash's deck, we'll do like a little art corner, I think, for the Golem thing. It's going to be a little bit, I'm long-winded when it comes to Golem. But Flash running double Fireball, which is kind of unique in this meta. Everyone's been running a lot of small spells, or like Log and Arrows and Lightning. Flash trying to get away with really just double Fireball and then a little cheap spell in both decks. Also running double Tombstone, which is kind of interesting. All four decks, though, very tanky. Giant double Golem, Lava Hound between the four decks. This is going to be a little bit of Battle Cruiser Clash Royale here.
just giant bodies hitting each other. All right.
And worth mentioning, this is what I love about the Clash Royale North American Open, is when you get the best players playing over and over again against each other. This is an all-star matchup. This is the sort of matchup that you could see at the Crown Duel in December, but, I mean, look how good these players are. Marcel P, over 5,000 trophies right now. Flash has already won a Coronation Day event. I mean, this is like an A-plus matchup, and it's the semifinals.
Yeah, and also, again, one thing that you pointed out earlier, like today, first broadcast, go back to Coronation Day #1, Expo in every single deck. Today, not a single Expo. So the thing about having these back-to-back is the meta constantly shifting. And like we talked about backstab, it's why'd you bring double Royal Giant? It's like, well, everyone was running Expo. So it'll be really exciting to see after today what tomorrow is going to bring. But right now, we have the semifinals between Marcel P from Reddit Alpha and Flash from TakeOver. Who do you guys think is going to take it?
Let us know. Golem in the opening hand.
That seems a little aggressive because, yeah, it's going to be really hard. I mean, you're not going to really get 8 Elixir of value here, and what you're really doing, which is unfortunate, is giving your opponent a chance to play his archers and Mega Minion behind, and then they can all follow up right there behind the Lava Hound. I think Marcel might have been better off almost playing anything else, like splitting archers, playing a Mega Minion casually in the back, or just waiting, because committing 8 to the board for that, kind of tough.
Trying to time his miner, or rather the Ice Golem, to tank up the pups, but having the pups be so near the tower anyways, had just 1 or 2 of the pups locking on for that duration, and look at how much damage that does. 1.3k on the left side tower, Flash opens it up big. Tombstone is definitely one of the strongest opening cards that you can play, and I think Flash reaped the benefits of that.
3 Elixir advantage for Flash translates into basically a free Tombstone, as they are now both at even Elixir, except that, of course, Flash has a little bit of a logjam there in the lane. You got to get through the Tombstone if you want to push. Now it's his chance to gain that Elixir advantage back if he can defend this really well, and instead he's going to go for the push down the other lane.
I think seems like Marcel P is really calling out Flash, and maybe, you know, the strategy for Marcel P is that he wants to get started on a tower health early because he knows Golem is so slow. But the problem is, if you're playing Golems and you don't have it well supported and they don't end up doing any damage, that's so much lost time. I mean, it's already a minute left to the game, and this is only the second Golem to be played.
Yeah, and he's taking a lot of hits. I wonder if it's the nerves, because, you know, Marcel P's mentioned that he gets nervous. Like, he's really great in the early rounds, obviously a super consistent top 8er, but when the lights are on, he starts to struggle and maybe question his own plays, and he's twice now, he's played kind of questionable Golems that I'm not a huge fan of. He's got to sit back and defend. Don't try to counterattack. Just stop this Lava Hound and then counter push with your defending units. Like, what could possibly be in his hand that the other 3 cards aren't playable?
It's also hard, too. Flash is so confident right now. He has nothing to worry about.
Absolutely. You're right. The pressure is not on for Flash. He's just here racking up money.
The Lava Hound actually going to take that tower down. Lava Hound noodle damage taking down the tower.
You're right. There was no support for it. That was pure noodle.
Golem actually pure noodle. Golem actually does make it up to the tower for Marcel P, and a big lightning is going to open up some damage. But again, only 8 seconds left, and you have lightning in your hand. That's going to have to be cycled 2 or 3 times. And really have to wonder, Marcel P's decision-making and strategy coming into this match, you know, in some ways, that's the least of your worries, right? Because that's just something, it's not something executional, it's not necessarily something deck-based. It's just, I have to make a few different decisions, and then we'll go from there, right? It's not the worst loss in the world.
No, not at all. I mean, Lava Hound probably does have a pretty good matchup against Golem in a lot of ways, so that was an unfavorable matchup, but great players can know how to play around that, right?
Yeah.
You do the weird lines of plays, you know the keys to the matchup. I'm looking at Marcel P's deck there, and he has 4 troops, all of which are reasonable to play, so even in those situations where he goes, all right, Tombstone, and then he would play Golem, there's no way the other 3 cards in his deck were unplayable, because at least one of them would have been Ice Golem, Mega Minion, Baby Dragon, or Archers. Why not play those into the Lava Hound? theoretically, he could change and do that next time, but Flash is going to have to switch to his Golem deck. So we're going to a Golem Mirror now.
Right.
Okay. Rainey, you touched on it a little bit during the match. Why is Tombstone such a great opening card?
Because it's very neutral, right? Tombstone, Furnace is a better example of this, but Tombstone is very similar in the sense that you can play it. Normally, you don't want to play defensive towers without anything to defend against because they degenerate health. Right. But spawners generate their benefit one at a time, so you can really play a card in front and have the skeletons kind of benefit you in a small way as they're coming out, and it just makes sure that even if your opponent does play something, when a Tombstone pops, it puts out additional skeletons into the field, you're still getting good value for its death in some ways.
Now, Lava Hound, just for correction, I think I say this because it looks a lot like Baby Dragon's attack. It doesn't do splash damage when it hits, does it?
No.
Okay.
It's a single target damage. It does about the damage of one Spear Goblin.
Okay.
And, pretty scary.
So I got a legendary, but it's kind of a...
Well, hey, the Lava Pups, though. Lava Pups.
That's true.
No joke. You're right, though. Lava Hound is definitely, I would actually, unfortunately for you, Ella, probably the least newbie-friendly. No, it's powerful. It's very powerful. The least newbie-friendly legendary.
There's so many other
it's not
cards.
something you can just pop into a deck. Something like Princess or Ice Wizard, you can play in almost any deck, and it's pretty effective. Lava Hounds really have to build around it.
Marcel P chooses Giant Bowler, so he lost and he did not have to switch his decks, but he chooses to. Giant gets a few good swings off, but it's really going to be up to how much damage this Golem can do to see if that was really worth it.
And maybe this is why Marcel was being really aggressive with those early Golems, because look at this, he's getting kind of trounced by an early Golem. It takes about 1,000 damage in that initial push, mostly because he didn't have a lot of great troops to defend it against. He just had to use the Bowler there.
One thing I learned recently is that Bowler, yes, does not knock back the Golem, but does knock back the Golemites.
Right, the Golemites are medium-sized compared
Little medium
to the
guys.
big old Golem.
That's right.
Log knocks back everything.
Good old Log.
A log destroys.
No, why didn't I get a log?
Hey, you at least got a legendary. Goodness.
Sucker.
Poor Christian.
Can we have hey, can we just have the camera guy come up here, and so then I'm also not just the only person on the stage without a legendary? He's nodding. He's nodding.
He probably also has a legendary.
The only one minion swing hit that Musketeer, and the one minion swing was enough to lower the Musketeer's health low enough that the Fireball killed it. That Fireball should not have killed that Musketeer, but unfortunately for Marcel P, things are just not going right for him in this matchup.
I like Marcel P's use of the log there right before the Golem died. It actually avoided the tower from taking the Golem death damage and retargeted the Golem swings onto the Tombstone. But it just seems like too little too late. Marcel P is stuck in a really, really tough spot. Of course, there's one big benefit. If you defend this Golem well enough, and you can actually make sure your tower is not in spell cycle range by the time overtime hits, you can actually race the Golem deck and try to take down Flash's tower before the Golem actually makes it and does its damage. And then all of a sudden you're turning the game around, and that's actually an outcome that I can totally see happening, and it might just be playing out right now.
This is really strong. He's got a Giant backed up by Giants. The Mega Minion's full health, and the Fireball doesn't kill the Bowler. It's still rolling.
Wow. Just like that, it looks like Marcel P is turning this around.
Uh-oh. I think I...
No! He's got a lightning.
He's got
You can
lightning.
do it. You can do it.
He needs to survive just a
This is
little
the
while
Fireball.
longer.
The Fireball's not going to kill it, and there's only the one spell.
Come on, Log.
The Log came down. Marcel P survives.
P tying it up against
Sticking in
Flash.
there.
1-1. We are going into game number 3 for these two players, where one of them will be our first finalist of Coronation Day number 7. Again, one thing I love about you guys is your predictions being spot on.
It's almost like we've watched thousands of games of Clash Royale.
It's just so good, like being able to see, all right, okay, if he can defend this perfectly, he's going to be moving on there. So again, talk to me just more. I mean, I'm assuming, yes, it does come with just watching game after game after game. You start seeing these patterns, but how can someone who's newer to this game start, like, how do you start recognizing patterns? What are certain key cards to look out for? What are certain play styles, certain cycles that people get into
How do you pull a that?
that are pretty key?
I mean,
Big question.
Here's the thing. Clash Royale is not a random game. We're seeing the same people appear every single week because the game is actually very even. Both players start with the same amount of elixir. The map is even for both players. The entirety of Clash Royale is the expression of spending elixir into cards and then cards into damage. If you line your cards up well, if you time them right, if you match up good cards of yours against good match opponents, you will eventually translate Elixir to cards to damage more efficiently than your opponent over and over again. The reason why Marcel P lost that first game is because putting golems on the board is not an efficient transfer of Elixir to cards to damage if you have nothing to back up that golem, right? And there's nothing behind it doing damage. That time, we saw a really great situation where the bowler was surviving, the musketeer was surviving the spells, and they were backing up the giant to just thrash that tower. It's almost like Marcel P woke up in the middle of that second game and was like, oh,
He heard you guys. That's what happened.
I know how to do this matchup.
The nerves calmed down,
Right.
the shakes went away. Marcel P is here to play. It is now 1-1. One of these two players is moving on. Will it be former champion Flash, or will it be four-time returnee Marcel P? It all comes down to this.
What does he do now? How does he take it?
I think if he can learn from his mistakes in the first game, he's got to kill this golem of flashes. Like don't play your own golem. Sit back. You've got Mega Minion. You've got Tombstone, Archers. You've got cards. Kill this thing and make Flash pay for committing 8 defenseless Elixir to the board.
Mega Minion is assisting the golem in its journey across the map.
Fireball.
It's going to make it to the tombstone, but not quite enough to take down the skeletons, and that timing might mean all the difference. The skeletons take down the golem before it reaches the tower to avoid death damage. Fireball removes the archers, and I think that's a key pickup for Flash in terms of deck building. Fireball has not been a spell that we've seen hardly at all. It's almost always been lightning, but as we have identified, archers become more and more popular. Fireball becomes more and more sensible as a spell to pick up.
And you see how that pacing went so much better for Marcel. He had about a 2.5 Elixir advantage, and he knew that once the golem was down, he had a little bit of an opening along with the Elixir advantage to get down a golem of his own. Now we're in a back and forth push situation, but Marcel P has a little bit more Elixir to defend with. Both of them opt for the Tombstone. This will allow the skeletons to accumulate on each other's enemy golem and, of course, drag the golems more towards the middle.
Minions drop for a little bit of defense, and I'm just now noticing that Flash is actually playing Mega Minion plus Minions, and that actually might make air control difficult for Marcel P to wrestle with. Now, he does have Baby Dragon to take the Minions out, but what do you do, right, and the Archers, but what do you do once that Mega Minion comes through and starts taking down the Baby Dragon itself, and then you have Fireball for the Archers? I really think that Flash's deck building is actually a little bit more well-informed than most of the players that we've seen so far.
Absolutely. I mean, that is, we talk about the changing metagame and how players adapt to each other. There's definitely a good strategic element of playing Fireball. I think he might have made that choice because he thought that with the nerf to Inferno Tower, we'd see less of it. He wouldn't need Lightning so much, and opted to go with the faster, cheaper spell to take out Archers, Mega Minion, and all those other cards. Marcel P's got to make sure he spreads out a lot so he doesn't eat Fireball on all the cards. The Archers
missing the Archers.
This might be the big opportunity. Yep, he drops a second golem. Now, the first golem has cleared the way. This is what you guys have to watch out for. When your first golem clears the way, the second golem is going to push past while your defenses are weak or
Baby Dragon.
And the Mega Minion's distracted on the Golem, allowing the Baby Dragon, which is normally a bad matchup, to survive. It's going to get through on the Archers in this critical Game 3 with only 15 seconds left. Can this push do it?
I think the timing was just perfect for Marcel P. Log and the Golem. Oh, man, I wish we could get a replay of that. I think it might be the Ice Golem. Marcel P. coming back for the reverse sweep. I have to say that Marcel P's timing on that log was absolutely key in changing things. So we talked about how the log, if it deals a killing blow to the Tombstone, kills all the skeletons that come after it.
Yep.
He played the log when the Tombstone was actually too healthy, but the timing on the Golem swing hit it just at the exact right moment.
Wow.
Log came through, took down all the skeletons, and earned him the winning push.
Marcel P, congratulations. You are moving on to the finals. He's been there before.
Absolutely. The very
Is it
first
his day? Is it his
journey
day
is not
today?
over.
It's not over yet, but he is one step closer, knocking out Flash.
Flash! Oh, Flash! Great job. You've earned a little bit more money to your pool, but you are out for tonight. You do not win a second Coronation Day. If we could take a little bit of a break, I want to talk about why I think Golem is a little strong. We take a little bit of a delay before the next match.
Before that, we got a quick replay,
so
and then we will do that for you, Rumham.
All right, Giant, and this is really talked about, again, in a very similar fashion. You play one Giant, it clears out the defenses. You play your second Giant, and now all of a sudden, it's not as well set up as the first set of defenses that Flash had. And look at how many swings this Giant gets. Just such great use of...
That's right. That was the one where he fell just short, but it was within long Fireball range.
Yeah.
Able to finish it off.
Right,
I'd love to
lightning.
watch this final push here. This is now in the same way, going bigger than what Rainey was just saying. It's Golem with another Golem behind it.
Yeah.
The key there, that Baby Dragon, which we saw do so well in the last Coronation Day, is doing it again here. All of those things, minions, mega minions, archers, all locked onto the Golem, and Baby Dragon kills almost 10 elixir worth of stuff by himself.
Yay, Baby Dragon.
Baby Dragon, the best Golem defense we've ever seen. He's the best bodyguard for Golem.
He did
ever.
it. He did it tonight.
Congratulations. All right, so now that Marcel P is moving on, before we get into Derek and Gilgamesh, let's talk about Golem, why he's so amazing.
I want to talk about a really important concept in competitive games. And especially when you're trying to figure out the meta and how am I going to beat everything else. There's a concept of going over other strategies and going under other strategies.
Okay.
So let's talk about Giant Bowler as sort of the midline strategy. That's a very mid-rangey deck. A lot of 5-cost cards, a lot of middle-cost cards. When you know your opponent is going to commit 5 elixir to the board, going down to, let's say, 5 of their own, you can do one of two things. You can go under that strategy by trying to punish them with fast, quick attacking cards. They play Giant behind their King Tower. You go Hog Rider, Ice Spirit, that kind of stuff behind it.
So that's under.
That's under.
Okay.
When they make a big commitment, really quick attack and try to punish them before you have to eat the pain of their strategy.
Okay.
Right? You could also do Miner, Goblin Barrel. All those things are going under big, expensive, heavy investments. Going over is the concept of knowing your opponent's going to play some big strategy and playing something bigger and tougher and scarier than them. I think Golem has become very popular because we saw Giant Bowler sort of be the default beatdown deck against all of these Expo decks. Going over a Giant Bowler deck would be,
Golem.
I'm going to play Golem. I'm going to play Lightning. I'm going to play as many big, expensive, powerful cards to overwhelm what you thought was a pretty reasonable beatdown deck. And so Golem is really popular now because it's just going over the top of a lot of stuff. It's going over Expo.
What can go over Golem?
I mean,
you almost can't, right? The only thing that really goes over Golem
Mirror Golem
is Three Musketeers.
That's right, and then Mirror.
And occasionally Lava Hounds.
Yeah, hey, you know what they say, Golem big or Golem home. All right, let's go ahead and pull up the bracket now so far. We have our first finalist. It is Marcel P. Who will join him? Will it be Derek or will it be Gilgamesh? Now, Rohan, we talked about Derek again before running the Golem or Goblin Barrel. So, a deck that you guys all want to see. You like seeing it played, Rainey. Obviously, it holds a place in your heart. Gilgamesh, though, a returning player that we've seen before. Talking about these two kind of as a matchup. Also, we're going to get ready. We can pull their decks so we can kind of see that as well. But just give me an argument kind of for both, and also which deck you're going to bring first.
Rainey, go ahead and argue for Derek. I know you want to. I know you want to talk
got Goblin
about
Barrel.
I know that.
All right.
There's your Goblin Barrel,
Well,
buddy.
looking at this list, look at who's that green guy right there.
Let's go pull up the decks.